So this place is really trying to cattle guard me into doing a driving job. Not only just a driving job, but a driving job with a clean background and all that stuff. And so the one day that they do this, look. So I text them there. 2 minutes later, after I was on the phone with them. So right as soon as I got this text message, right at 2:24, I called. So who am I texting with? I'm just curious, right? Because it's if there's only one person in the office, that person is sending text messages. So this is the same person who is like calling every day, and I was calling in every day, and it went from 5:30 to 6:30, or 5:30 to 6, and then which is okay because you got to sleep in a little bit more. But then one day the lady's like, well, somebody called in at 5:45, so we sent them out instead. And it's like, wait a second. Okay. And so I called in the next day at 5:45, and then she just fucking went manic depressive. She's like, do you know I don't have time to turn on the computer and all that shit? I was like, what the fuck is this bitch on? Like, seriously, like yesterday you should have called in earlier, because if you would have called just a couple minutes earlier, we would have got you on this job. And when it's, fight or flight, you need to make money to keep paying to stay at the Georgia hotel. You know what I mean? It's just really funny. So and plus my phone was making weird noises and shit. And it's like, okay. And so the call keeps dropping. So, I mean, I'm trying to communicate here. Here I am. It's all the way to here. Look. This is how many times I called today. Right? But look at the first call. So they had no intention of putting me out on this job. It was just to get me on the phone for some reason, and to have me sit there and hold. And the frequencies that were playing through the phone hurt my ear. It literally hurt this. I mean, my left ear is still ringing. And intermittently it would drop down and then go really, really loud, and then drop down and go really, really loud. And I don't have the sonograph on, so I can't tell you what the frequency was. But it wasn't one that you should be hearing, because my head hurts now. We can only... Okay, so it makes me feel like there's two. And then see, if you called in available more often, that might increase your chances. Well, I just called in. You know what I mean? Like, there's got to be some sort of give and take. I mean, how long does it take you to talk to somebody on the phone? Right? Because 6 minutes is long enough for you to answer a call, and then, or just put somebody on, hey, yeah, I'll be right with you. Let me put you on a brief hold. And that's all you need to do. That's how you know that there's another catch-22 going on here. That's how you know it was fake. Because if you're actually legitimately a person getting paid to take calls and put people on jobs, you could at least get the 1 and 2 figured out right away, and then just start calling people back that called, right? Because that's what a logical person would do. They'd go, okay, this person called first, this person called second. Okay, let's work with those two and see if they actually want to do it. And if they don't want to do it, then work with 3, 4, 5, 6. This is one of those things, and especially after my camera getting turned off earlier from a robocaller calling, we don't need to have a 10-minute... I don't need to be on hold for 10 or 20 minutes for you to actually answer, right? And so I just give this bit of reality here. Well, after that, you know what I mean? It's like, sometimes I'll call, sometimes I won't, because it's like, it's hit or miss with these guys. There's really no catch-22 there. I mean, they either do or they don't have work. And then one day, I called in at 6 in the morning, and then they waited till 12 to try to get me to go do a graveyard shift. Funny how there's a Cessna flying overhead. Don't really need that, right? Because I don't know what a law enforcement aircraft needs to fly under 500 feet in the city limits so often for. But on that note, you can only play this game so many times with these people. They have their favorites, and I get that. But just to say, hey, you should call in more. I mean, I'll try, but I'm not going to sit there and worry about calling into a place that has no indication of putting me to work. Like they don't want to put me into work. They don't give a fuck. This person doesn't care. Because if they did, they would they would do their job. You know what I mean? Like doing that whole, well, you should have called in at 5:45. Man, you said to call in at 6, you know. I could see calling in saying, hey, be ready to dial at 5:59. You know? And so the next day when I call in at 5:45, the woman just goes fucking manic. And it's like, whoa, hey, don't you get an attitude with me. And it's like, whoa, bitch, what the fuck is the matter with you? You're not the emperor of the Roman Empire. You know what I mean? You're just some broad working the phones at a fucking place. Just like I'm just some Joe Blow nobody who's trying to go get a job, you know, trying to do day labor. You know, they act as if you should have $1 million that's, you know, you could just pull from too. Because boy, if your phone gets cut off, hey, fuck you. You know, and it's just funny how that works. It's just, it's really shrill when you think about it. Because all they have to do is, you know, either do a rotary thing, like, oh, these people called in more, so we'll call them first. We'll call them. Or we'll send a text, hey, answer this text within 3 minutes, and oh, hey, you're next in line. Answer this text within 3 minutes. I remember I used to do the call-in thing at Eastside, and when Cliff would have me do the call-in sheet, there was a sheet with everybody's name, and then there was 2 check boxes, right? And it was just simple. You'd either draw an X if they called right on time, or if they called like 10 or 15 minutes late, you'd do a slash. If they called a half an hour late, you'd circle it or something. He did something like that. And so that way, because I was never the one to decide who got to go out to work. It was always Cliff. But when you were doing his phone thingy, you had to do it the same way he did, because when he'd read it off the next morning, he'd decide who to call, right? And when there's an absence of work, and you were in the doghouse, you know, like you fucked up, or, you know what I mean, like you broke something on purpose, and you're like, fuck that bitch, you know, he'd be like, oh yeah, go ahead, call in, big guy, call in for a week, you know, and he'd always make sure that there was a circle effect. Like you wouldn't be, if you were in the doghouse too long, there's just never a time where you'd be in the doghouse longer than a week, because he'd just fire you. You know what I mean? He'd just fire you. And so if enough people didn't call in, if nobody called in at 4, then he would just instantly go with seniority at 7 o'clock in the morning. Hey, you want to come and work? Hey, you want to come and work? Or you'd tell people to call in at 7, and then they would call in and first come, first serve. And so in situations like this, when I was dealing with that at 7 in the morning, because somebody, oh, well, what's the shot look like? How many hours? How many pounds? Who are you going to send out? And hey, check this out. I'm just answering the phone for Cliff. Are you going to come into work or not? And somebody else would call your line. And sometimes there'd be 8 or 9 people. I'd say, 1 second. What? Shut up for 1 second. I'm putting you on hold. I got to tell somebody else I got to put them on hold. And you'd hit the hold button for line 1, and then you can hit line 2, and it answered line 2, and you go, hey, who's this? Okay, give me 1 second. Don't talk. I'm on line 1 already. Hold. Line 3. Hey, who's this? Okay, and then you'd sit there and do your checkbox thing. And sometimes all those lines would be, but if you had somebody on hold, I remember he had a rule about how long you could have somebody on hold for. And that's one of the other things that got me in the doghouse, is leaving somebody on hold for like 5 minutes. You know what I mean? But he was always like, okay, in my mind, if I'm being asked, this is what he told me. He said, in my mind, if I'm being asked to call in at 7 and there's a 30% probability that I might or might not work, hurry up and get them off the phone if you're not going to work them. That's what he said. You know, we got to hurry up and get them off the phone if we're not going to work them. Because you don't need to sit there and soak up, the entire fucking morning talking to somebody when you got freight to come in, you got paperwork to grade, you got weight tickets to worry about, you got your documentation on Mover Suite to do, you got all this other shit. So this whole phone thing at 7 needs to be done by 7:15. Do you understand, big guy? And he'd say some shit to you like that. This whole phone thing at 4 o'clock needs to be done at 4:15, big guy. Do you understand? And you'd go, yes, sir. You know what I mean? You didn't have a choice in the matter, because there is a regimented amount of time assessed for each one of these moments. Now, when you call or when you send a text, now I sent that text, now notice that was 2 minutes later. But if you look at my call log, I called them right on time. Like as soon as they sent that text. So whatever that was bullshit. This whole situation is bullshit. You know what I mean? Like you can't you can't text somebody and say, hey, call me at a certain time. And then the expectation is to answer, call within a certain amount of time, and that gets you in the ringer. Now, obviously, somebody else is running these texts, right? Because why would they say there is only one person in the office? So, and again, you can answer the phones as fast as you want, technically, because if you answer and you go, hey, are you available to go and work? Okay. Hey, are you available to go and work? What are you doing? Are you giving a tutorial over the phone? What are you guys doing? You know what I mean? What are you actually doing? Because when somebody calls and they're going to sit there and hold for so long, there's an issue with that, right? And that's the same thing with calling in the morning, is that you call in the morning and then you talk to them, and then 7 hours later they want you to go and do a full shift somewhere else in the middle. You know what I mean? Like, where's the mental disconnect is a problem, because as later shifts, even if they're the drop of the hat, you should still have a rotary for people who want to work later. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. If somebody signed up to do days and you have them calling in at 6 in the morning, and then at 1 o'clock, you want to call them to give them an hour to go to another place, it's just not going to work. I mean, who'd you find to fill that position? It's not going to work. And plus, who wants to go and work an 8-hour shift at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when they got up at 6? You're not going to be worth anything. You're going to be pretty fucking worthless, But that's the mental game that everybody's playing with me, to make me quit. You just need to quit. Well, what? Quit to what? Well, you just need to let go. Let go of what? My life? Like, this isn't a fucking game. I need to make money in order to survive. And these people know this. That's the problem with economics, is that when people use money as a weapon like this is the same determination as sticking a gun to your head and being like, fuck you. Because without money, you're going to die. And they know that. They know that. This is just baiting me to call them every day so they can stress me out every morning, Because I don't need this bitch being like, why do you have an attitude? Whoa, hey, I don't have an attitude with you. I don't know where this is coming from. You know what I mean? But that's the problem when when LaborWorks hires people who are bipolar schizophrenic, Because she's not a morning person, clearly, you know what I mean? It's like, hi, how are you? And then you take hey, don't touch me like that. Hey, yeah, don't have an attitude with me. Bitch, I'm not talking to you. Did you not hear the phone? You know what I mean? Like, you could hear other people in the background. You can hear that there's other shit going on. The mental complacency is so vast with this company. And it's amazing how do they stay open? And it's tax cuts is what it is. Because you don't afford to run a business and not sell anything. You know what I mean? You're selling a service. And if you open a business and you have people calling in to sell that service to you, and then you just oblige to fucking piss these people off all the time, and you don't put them to work, and then you don't cover your shifts, well, how are you making money? It's a control mechanism in their brain. And this is a controlling thing. This company has got a real weird control behavior where you got to call in on time, and you got to, I don't know, send sweet nothings through the phone. I don't know what the fuck is going on with these people.